Welcome back to Creepy Chicken, where today we will be reading your submissions. When I was young, I used to hear my parents talking in their room at night. Being curious, I would get out of bed and try to eavesdrop on them. One night, my mom was crying. I could only make out bits and pieces of the conversation, but I remember my dad saying, "You should really see a doctor about that." And then my mom said, "But it's just stress." You know how it is. These things happen when you work nights. Dad replied, No, this is something else. I can tell." Mom started to yell at him, saying, "How dare you talk to me like that? Do you think I'm some kind of child who needs coddling?" Then she stopped and whispered, "What are you scared I'll do to myself?" Then she hung up. The phone clicked. Then my dad said, "Why do I feel like we're being watched?" He sounded genuinely scared. My mom didn't reply, but I heard her getting into bed and laying down next to Dad. They were silent for a bit until my dad broke the silence with a whisper, "Don't let anything happen to yourself, okay? I love you." Then he hung up. I was terrified and unsure of what to do, so I went back to bed and tried to sleep. But all I could think about was what my mom had said about doing something to herself. I hoped that she would be okay. That was one of many similar conversations I heard. Every time I heard my parents talking, I got more and more worried. About 2 months after the first conversation, I heard my parents arguing again. This time, it was worse than usual. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I could tell that they were both really angry. Suddenly, there was a loud crash followed by my mom screaming. I ran to my parents' room as fast as I could and burst through the door. What I saw made me freeze in my tracks. My mom was standing in the middle of the room, holding a shard of glass that was dripping with blood. She was staring at it in a daze, as if she wasn't really there. I was too scared to move or make a sound. Then she looked up at me with wide eyes and a look of panic on her face. Get away," she whispered, her voice shaky. Before I could respond, she threw the shard of glass at me. I screamed and instinctively put my hands up to protect my face. The glass hit my arm, leaving a small cut. I fell to the floor, clutching my arm. That's when my dad came running into the room. "What the hell is going on here?" he yelled. He rushed over to me and helped me up. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice trembling. Then everything went black. The next thing I knew, I was in the hospital with my dad by my side. I had stitches on my arm and a bandage on my head. Apparently, I had hit my head on the floor when I fell. I didn't remember any of that. All I remembered was the look on my mom's face. It was pale and lifeless, like she wasn't really there. The doctor said that I had a concussion and needed to stay in the hospital for observation. Meanwhile, my dad went home to get some rest. I asked him to stay, but he insisted that he was fine. I remember feeling really scared and alone in that hospital bed. I kept replaying the argument in my head over and over again, trying to figure out what had happened. I felt really bad for my mom. She must have been going through something really difficult if she was acting like that. That's why I was really surprised when the next day my dad told me that Mom had checked herself into a mental hospital. Apparently, she had been acting really weird for a while now, and the incident with the glass had just been the last straw. Dad said that he and Mom had decided to get a divorce and that he would be moving to another city to start fresh. I was sad to hear that, but I also knew that it was probably the best thing for everyone involved. A few months later, I was visiting my dad in his new place when he told me something that shocked me. Apparently, after my mom was admitted to the mental hospital, she had disappeared without a trace. No one had seen her since. The police had searched everywhere for her, but they couldn't find any sign of her. Dad said that he had put up a picture of her on a missing persons website and that he never gave up hope that she would be found. He seemed so sad and I felt so bad for him. I hugged him tightly. "It's okay," I said, trying to sound strong and reassuring, even though I was scared myself. What had happened to my mom? Was she out there somewhere, hurt and alone? Or had something terrible happened to her? I couldn't help but worry about her. Even though I hadn't seen her in a long time, she was still my mom and I wanted her to be okay. I never imagined that the truth was even scarier than my wildest fears. After that day, my dad and I grew even closer. We talked about everything, and he always made sure that I knew how much he loved me. I knew that no matter what happened, I could always count on him. One day, my dad and I were eating dinner when he suddenly stopped eating and stared at his plate. "What's wrong, Dad?" I asked. "Nothing," he said quickly, trying to smile. But I could tell that he was hiding something from me. So I pressed him. "Please tell me what's wrong," I begged. And finally he sighed and told me the truth. "I haven't been honest with you," he said, his voice shaking. "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "Your mother, I haven't been looking for her. I'm sorry," he whispered. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. And that's when my dad told me the most terrifying thing I had ever heard. "She isn't dead," he said, his eyes wide with fear. "What?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You said that she was missing," I said, confused. I lied," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He looked down at his hands, unable to meet my gaze. "Tell me the truth, Dad," I said, my voice shaking. "Where is Mom?" He took a deep breath and finally looked up at me. "She's here," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "What?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Here?" My dad nodded slowly. "In this house," he said, his eyes wide with fear. But I thought that she was in a mental hospital," I stammered, my mind racing. My dad shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "She never went there. I made it all up." He looked down at his hands, unable to meet my gaze. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. And that's when my dad told me the most terrifying thing I had ever heard. "She doesn't want to leave this house," he said, his eyes wide with fear. "What?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Here?" My dad nodded slowly. "In this house," he said, his eyes wide with fear. And that's when it hit me. All those strange noises I'd heard in the middle of the night, all those times I'd felt something watching me, it wasn't my imagination. I was being watched, and it wasn't by my mom. Whatever it was in this house with us. And now that I knew my mom was here too, I was even more scared. I wanted to run and hide, but my dad's face was filled with such terror that I couldn't move. "What do we do?" I stammered, my voice shaking. But before my dad could answer, there was a loud crash from upstairs. We both jumped, and my dad's face drained of color. "We have to go," he whispered urgently. "Now." He grabbed my hand and pulled me towards the door, his eyes wide with fear. "Run," he yelled. And I did. I ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back. I didn't know what was chasing us, but I knew that it was fast because my dad didn't make a sound. And that's when I realized that my dad had never loved me at all.